See, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name.
That's the band America singing their biggest hit, Horse with No Name. Now, they had hit after hit back in the 1970s, but they didn't stop then. They've been touring all over the world for over 43 years. We were just on the road with the band where they told us their whole story in their own words.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We met in high school. Our dads were in the U.S. Air Force, and we were stationed outside of London. So we were going to the same high school together, class of '69, and we played together in high school bands. We played at teen clubs and played every Friday night, kind of cover stuff. And it wasn't until after we graduated that we'd started writing our own material and put the actual official America name on it.
As far as chemistry, we were just friends, you know. We really did bond, and I think being American teenagers in London in the '60s was a special time to be a teenager anywhere, but being in swing in London. So we really hit it off, and I think that's been a big factor with our longevity.
Chewing on a piece of grass, walking down the road.
We were known as the American kids there. It's a very small London music community, and we were kind of started to get a little bit of a reputation around town, playing with our 3 acoustic guitars in record company offices and trying to get something going. So we were the American kids, so America just seemed natural.
Living on the riverside, taking it all in my stride.
Our influences have remained the same pretty well from the start. Growing up in the '60s, the Beatles and the Beach Boys.
Those vocal harmonies, you know, Brian Wilson and Lennon McCartney, the Beatles, and so on, those are all just ingrained in our, you know, we were all ears, all eyes.
You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain.
Our first album was recorded as a project in England that didn't include Horse with No Name. And then the label decided to put us back in the studio because they didn't really hear a single. So the 2 projects, the single and the album, are really 2 different things. And it wasn't until 6 months later when the US label wanted to release the project, and they sent over the parts. Here's the parts to print the single, here's the parts to print the album. And they had run off 100,000 copies before they realized that the single wasn't on the album. So it's one of those unique collector's items that if you're lucky, you get the one without the song.
You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain.
Yeah, I wrote it and called it Desert Song. At the time when I was first starting to write songs, I would just put Moon Song or Rainbow Song or something, and then kind of go back and maybe retitle. In the case of those 2, I didn't retitle them, but that was called Desert Song. But our producer very wisely said, oh no, you must call it, our first producer, you must call it Horse with No Name. That's the hook. And I said, okay.
Well, I never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already.
The Grammy for Best New Artist in 1972 was a thrill. We were on the road. We didn't appear at the Grammys, and it was great. We were up against the Eagles and Loggins and Messina, John Prine and Harry Chapin, all great artists that we really respected. The Eagles were coming up kind of at the same time as us, so it was kind of a shock.
We went to school with Dan Peek, and he was, you know, a founding member of the band. He did leave the group in '77, so even though I suppose we started in late '70, he was there for all those years. He was a friend for longer than that.
Yeah, and his contributions are in stone. I mean, Lonely People, Don't Cross the River, those first 5 albums, 6 albums. I don't want to undercut Dan's influence, and he was. We were the 3 Musketeers there. And we rode around in a little van in England up and down the M1, opening for bands like Traffic and Pink Floyd, and all 3 of us in the back seat. And so Dan was an integral member. He'll always be part of America. And we were shocked when he passed away.
We do about 100 shows a year, more on some years, a little bit less on others. But if you double that, that gives you a rough idea how many days. So 100 shows is about 200 days of travel, and it's a lot. As we're getting on in our years, I feel it personally a little bit more. But
I feel it. Yeah, it's pretty grueling. You know, we've hit the 60-year mark, and we're it's tough stuff. It's just it's a wonderful thing to realize that you were a tiny cog in this giant music world, and people still are interested in your influence or those songs. They want to see you play them live, and it's really rewarding to be able to still do that now.
You can do magic. You can have anything that you desire.
it's obviously a family thing. You know, people see now it started as 3 and it's 2 in the images, but on stage it's always been 5, at least 5, and so it's a nice tight-knit group. It runs pretty smooth.
Ventura Highway in the sunshine.
We got a star on the Hollywood Walk of
Thank
Fame.
you very much. Now, they've got that together, I tell you. Obviously, they do those ceremonies fairly regularly, but we were amazed. So it was a fantastic day for us. Everybody in our organization was there. It was nice to share that.
It's a great honor, yeah, but to have a star there is really special.
And if you want to find out where the band is playing right now, don't just Google America because, well, that's obvious why you wouldn't just do that, but go to their website, venturahighway.com.